right, anybody know what the Father, before he makes his grand appearance, before the Mashiyach makes his grand appearance? Huh? A shout. Absolutely, a shout. But what is interesting about verse 3 that lets us know that this is a shout or a conversation that he's trying to have with Adam in the garden? What's the word that sticks out?
Is that verse 3?
In verse 8.
Can you read it?
Can I read it?
Yeah, I don't have to.
Oh, you can read it?
And they heard the voice of Yahuah Elohim walking in the garden in the cool of the day.
Mm-hmm.
And Adam and his wife hid themselves from the presence of Yahuah Elohim amongst the trees in the garden.
Right, so what word stands out here?
Presence.
Presence, hallelujah. You can ask your sisters, what word stands out in verse 8 that lets us know that before the Mashiyach or the Father makes his grand appearance, something has to happen first? What word stands out in verse 8? Heard. Right. Heard. What about this word right here? Voice. We looked at that word a little bit earlier, and we have the Hebrew word again, the kuf, the u, and the lamed. So the Father's going to come from Shamayim with what? A shout, and with the voice of the archangel. And everybody know who that is, right? Hallelujah. So, we know that this is a Shabbat. Where do you believe amongst the festivals this event is happening at? Huh? The atonement. Okay, the Day of Atonement. So the 7th month, the 10th day. Anybody else have any suggestions on when this might be? Right, it's a Shabbat because even Yom Kippur is a Shabbat. When you go to Leviticus, the 23rd chapter, it makes a list of, there's a 7th day Shabbat. Pesach is a Shabbat. The Feast of Unleavened Bread is Shabbat. We have the first day and the last day of Unleavened Bread of Shabbats. We have Shavuot as a Shabbat. So we have Yom Teruah. So let's have fun with this last scripture here. So are the sisters in one accord that it was Yom Teruah, or was it the Day of Atonement? Okay, so anybody believe that it was the Day of Atonement? And this is the men against the women here.
I could kind of see.
Say make his appearance, right?
Mm-hmm.
You show let you know you're coming. On the day, but when he gonna make his appearance on the atonement.
On the atonement.
And it makes me think of as far as with that atonement as well, you know.
You got to gather the people up first, right? You got to have his army.
And he
Right.
presented himself before them to atone for, because they had already sinned at this point. So
Right.
he's atoned that. And then we know he makes an atonement for them as well.
Okay. Well, the sisters are right. Okay. But we're still in the same ballpark. I mean, so nobody's actually wrong, but the sisters are right. And the way that we're going to draw this picture is this way. There was a marriage relationship that happened between Adam and his Isha. I mean, between Adam and the father. Adam is not placed in the garden. There's a transgression in the garden. And so now there needs to be an atonement. The atonement happens in the 10th day of the 7th month. And Zakar, you're absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. But we have something important now, is that before the Father recognized or brought to Adam and his Isha's attention of the transgression, there was a voice that was heard as, walked through the cool of the day. So before the Father makes his, or the Messiah makes his appearance, there's a shout. So we have the 7th month, the first day. Adam and his Isha tried to hide themselves from the voice of the Father, and they made fig leaves to try to cover themselves, so they tried to make an atonement. But it was actually now the Mashiyach makes this atonement. So we do see in the 7th month, the 10th day, we do see a sacrifice being made, and the Father actually made an atonement for them. Now, they were now expelled from the garden. Okay, they're now expelled from the garden, and from that point on, the Father has never tabernacled with the congregation of Yashra'al collectively as a people again. Never. So this is the reason why the atoning sacrifice is very, very important. The feast days are very important because we're all waiting for now the fall feast. The fall feast represents the coming of the Mashiyach. We talked about that. We talked about now, well, we didn't go into the Day of Atonement, but just for now, if everybody can see the picture, Adam and his Isha, they hear the voice of the Father, and what they try to do now is they try to hide themselves. Remember the Song of Solomon, then I ended with that, and then, whatever questions that we might have. There's two ways that you can look at the Songs of Solomon. Some people look at it as an erotic poem, all right? You got that. But what are the spiritual applications behind that? There was a woman that fell asleep. And it made mention now that her husband is banging on the door, but he's speaking softly to her. The woman tells the person, her husband, I'm asleep. Come back later. I've already bathed. I'm already in bed. I'm asleep. Go do what you need to do. I'm resting now. So she didn't want to hear the voice of the Father when the Father was calling out for her. I'm tired. I'm busy. I'm doing something right now. And so again, to call out to the bride, not recognizing or closing their ears to the sound, is the same thing that Adam and his Isha did. Where they heard the voice, but they ran and hid themselves among the people. So the question is today now, will you be able to hear that sound, that voice? Or are you going to be now, because it talked about, even in the Songs of Solomon, it talks about the latter rains. Will you be ready when the Mashiyach now comes knocking on the door and asking for you? Because remember what happened now is that there comes a point now where it's too late. Remember the story with the 5 virgins? 5 had oils and they lamp, the other 5 didn't? When the woman, at her own convenience, and this woman is not talking about a literal woman, it's talking about the nation of Yashra'al. Okay, so we just want to make sure that's clear. But by the time that lazy woman got up and answered the door, what did she say? Where's my beloved? My beloved is gone. He has already now gone, closed the wedding chamber doors, and the wedding now is about to take place. She goes out into the city now looking for her beloved. So if we can see what's going on here now, in the story of Adam and his Isha, the Father is now calling out for them, but they hid themselves. Mishpachah, make sure that you understand the sound of the trumpet. Make sure, don't hide. Because you're going to fall into a situation where now the doors are closed, and now you're banging on the door, let me in. It's too late. And it's the same story with the story of Noah, when it got to the point where he said, listen, you know what, close the door. Mommy and daddy's going to be banging on the door, but it made mention that the Father closed the door. Once the Father closed the door, it's a wrap. So let's make sure that we understand Yom Teruah, and I'm going to go a little bit more through this. Are you going up this Shabbat?
Am I what?
Are you going up this Shabbat?
Yeah.
Okay, so after that, I'll come up and I'll finish Yom Teruah, and we'll go in with doing the Feast of Sukkot. We'll talk a little bit more about Teruah because there's a whole lot. There's a whole lot. And so if there's any questions, we'll end it there. Yes.
So
seed that actually had that real serious relationship after this situation was Moshe. You know, so exactly it. But collectively, you're absolutely correct. Because the Father wants to deal with his bride face to face, the same way that he wants to deal with your Isha face to face. You know, so again, the calling is going to be very, very important. Just like when you're dealing with your children. Listen, you know what? I called you. And so when I call you now, I expect for you now to come to attention and see what it is that I'm asking for you to do. And Adam and his Isha did not do that. And so again, I just wanted to share again is that once they were expelled from the garden, from that point on, we have always been trying to get back into the garden. Everybody wants to get back into the garden, right?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, okay, absolutely. Because like Warren said, is that a lot of us have gotten so comfortable here is that we don't want to leave now. We believe that this is home. This is not home. This is not the land that the Father promised to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. You have something more, Ray?
Oh, no. I'm not coming up this spot.
Oh.
I'm just let you...
Oh, okay. So what I'll do is that we go a little bit more in detail with Teruah and explaining what that is. And from the 6th month until the 7th month, the 10th day, we was on pins and needles waiting for the verdict on whether or not the Father would actually forgive us of our sins. Okay, so you have the 6th month, and Moses was on top of the mount for how many days?
40 days.
For 40 days, all right. 30 days in the month of Elul, plus 10 days gives us now the month of Tishri. The 10th day, the 7th month is what festival? 6 months in the month, the 6th month is the month of Elul. Moses on top of the mount for 40 days and 40 nights. 30 days in the month of Elul. On the 40th day gives us Tishri, the 10th day, which is the 7th month, 10th day, which is the Day of Atonement. All right? Everybody's told? You see that? All right, hallelujah. So we'll stop it there. Anybody have any questions? Anything? Anything? You're such a good crowd. Hallelujah.
So was that the Mashiyach in the garden who came when Adam and Eve, or when Adam and Yahuah hid their faces? Was that Mashiyach?
Yes, I believe Mashiyach was there from the very beginning. When I come in the volume of the book, everything is pointing towards the Mashiyach.
The Father, he never comes face to face with us.
Exactly.
Oh.
No, with Adam, didn't he come with Adam? Didn't he come face to face?
No, so it was always that's where it gets real cool with the word Elohim. You know, then you go to the book of John that talks about the Father was there in the beginning with the Son and everything like that. But all of this now is centered around the Mashiyach and the Father setting up a salvation plan from the very beginning. And the Mashiyach, you know, a body has prepares me from the beginning. I think that's Psalms 40 and 7. And yeah, but it's always been the Mashiyach. I mean, always. It was always him acting on behalf of the Father.
I always look at it as the president of, like, I work in a hospital. The president of the hospital. You have a problem, you can't go directly to the president of the hospital.
Yeah.
You have to go to the person that's after the president of the hospital. And they take your problem up to the president. If they find it, that they need to do that.
Exactly. So just like I'm sure like you did with your Isha and your children, if you're out working and everything like that. So now the second in command is your Isha, and if your kids act up, and your Isha will be like, listen, you know what, you just wait till your father get home. And so, you know, it was always like, oh no, you never want to fall into the hands of daddy. And so it's always best to compromise with the vice president, because after that, you don't want daddy to come home.
I would say just thinking
To chastise.
thinking that it was the Father, you know, I'm correct, the Father dwells on high in Shemayim.
Right.
The Mashiyach, this is going to be his kingdom. This is going to be his ruling place, correct?
The Father?
No, the Son. It's
Uh-huh.
going to be the Mashiyach. Like the earth is going to be the Mashiach's ruling place, correct?
Right.
And then I know there's a verse that says your maker is your husband.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I can't remember where it's at specifically, but it says that the Mashiyach says he is the maker. He's made everything in the world for him and by him.
Right.
So when it goes into thy maker is that husband, we know that the Mashiyach is the life. He did all of this in a sense. So that would be our husband, and that would